I'm just going to do a sound check. Karen, are you there?
Yep.
Dawn, are you there?
Yep.
Jared, are you there?
Yep.
Diane Rowland, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. So we're good to go. So I'm going to get us underway. Welcome to the regular board meeting on November the 16th of Sunrise School Division. My name is Paul Mang. I'm the board chair. With us tonight are 5 trustees here, Trustee Berry, Trustee Duma, Trustee Reed, Trustee Harris, and myself. And on the phone with us, we have Trustee Inslee, Trustee Pachakowski, Trustee Nickel, and Trustee Rowland. In the room with us as well, we have our 5 staff members, 4 of our staff members that are regular, Superintendent Timko, Secretary Treasurer Carlton, Assistant Superintendent Julian, and the board support, Stacy Bonato, thank you. And we also have a presentation tonight from our Transportation Manager, Jason Zipper. He's here, so welcome to everyone. 1.2, so I'm going to call our meeting to order. Sorry we're late. It is 7:10. I'll call our meeting to order, and we're going to have O Canada by Dugald School. Please stand if you can do so. Thank you to Ecole Dugald School in the early years. I'm going to take my mask off to show a smile on my face as I was envisioning the students singing there, that probably early year students, and with big smiles on their faces and busting it out singing. And so big thank you to Ecole Dugald School, because that was, it made me go back thinking about being in schools and listening to kids go ahead and sing, so kudos to them. 1.3 is our treaty acknowledgement, and I'll ask Trustee Berry to go ahead and do that for us, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We acknowledge that the traditional land upon which Sunrise School Division resides as Treaty Territory 1. We honor our partnership with Canada's original peoples and respect the gifts of Indigenous history, culture, and language. Commit to moving forward in a partnership with our communities in a spirit of collaboration and reconciliation.
Thanks, Trustee Berry. So 2.1 of our agenda is adopting the agenda. So I need be it resolved that the board approve the agenda. I need it moved by Trustee Duma, seconded by Trustee Harris. Any questions of the agenda? Hearing none, we'll vote. And it's passed 9-0. Thank you. 3.1 talks about chair's comments. So a reminder, if you have any questions, please send the questions to scarlton@sunrisesd.ca. Names and address of the sender must be included in the email. I can tell you that I did have a question earlier from Jody Billup, and Superintendent Timko is going to go ahead and answer that question in her report. So there's a number of things that I want to turn around and say kudos to. Thanks to our senior staff this week, certainly as we've had some COVID cases in our schools and the work that they've had to do, certainly around tracing of that, thanks to Kathy and your staff for the work that you go ahead and do. I want to say congratulations to the SCI football team. The SCI football team won Division II championship, so kudos to them. I want to turn around and say thank you to the Principal Trevor Reed at Powerview School, and to teacher Paul Schramm, as they're very much involved in helping get the ice going up in Pine Falls. And thanks to those two crew, along with Mr. Reed's two kids, Quinn and Landon, certainly about the work that they've put in, much appreciated as we move forward with our high school hockey team. And if you haven't seen this journal, and I'm going to pass this around to trustees, it's the Mass Journal of the Manitoba Association of School Superintendents. And in there, this week is published our superintendent, Kathy Timko, has an article in here. And it talks about who the award goes to. It's really about equipping teachers and about assessment planning action. So I'm going to pass this around to the trustees if you haven't seen it. But kudos to Kathy for the work that you did on that. Are there any other, go ahead, Trustee Duma.
I just wanted to recognize the last week Remembrance Day services, and specifically congratulations to the staff and the students at SCI who put together a very memorable Remembrance Day video, and it was on YouTube, and I think it was well over an hour. I believe it still might be on there, but it was very, very well done. So just congratulations to their, I know they put a lot of work into it, so it was very good.
Trustee Duma, thanks for sharing. Anyone else?
Paul?
Go ahead, Trustee.
Trustee Rowland here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to echo Trustee Duma's comments, I just also wanted to say thank you to Springfield Collegiate for the Remembrance Day video they created and shared. And I particularly would like to thank them for their focus this year on the lesser-known Korean War and the bravery of the Princess Patricia Canadian Light Infantry, with whom my stepfather served. And as well, I was very moved by the inclusion of the relatively recent Springfield Collegiate Institute graduates that have served that were noted in that presentation, and I just thank them dearly again.
Thanks, Trustee Rowland. Anyone else? Did you want it? And again, I didn't get a chance to get out to, Trustee Rowland and Trustee Duma, certainly thanks for bringing up. I know that many of the schools had Remembrance Day services that were virtual, and again, I don't think that we've gotten to see all of them, but I know that it takes a lot of planning for the staff that are there. So unfortunately, we haven't seen them all, staff, but thanks for the time that you put into those services for us. Appreciate it. Okay, we're going to move on. Thank you for that. So we have a board delegation. So we have Jason Ziprick, Transportation Manager. Scott, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So I think once we had an opportunity, hopefully to at least meet and speak a little bit to Jason, who's our newest manager, not so new anymore. Jason, now about a year and a half?
Yeah, a year and 4 months.
Year and 4 months, moving into a year and a half. Jason had the good fortune of joining us at a time when COVID hit, and we've been experiencing drivers shortages, and not any shortage of travails for our transportation department, but has managed to pull through very, very well. So we appreciate the work you're doing there, Jason, and I'll give the floor to you for the next 10 minutes.
Good? Oh, okay. We'll move that back a bit. So anyways, thank you so much for having me here. This is, like Scott says, this is, I think, on year and a bit, and this is the absolute first time that I get to be in person, so that is exciting. I've watched probably almost all of these all of these meetings, and yeah, it's nice to actually be in the room for a change. So it is nice to finally see people in person and make that connection. So today I'm just going to take you through, you can go to the next slide. The first 3 months of the school year, and every school startup is always very busy with planning routes and new students and doing all of those regular startup activities. This year we had some compounding challenges with a driver shortage, and we were not unique from that perspective. It is a shortage that is hitting North America, right? And specifically Manitoba. Sunrise was not immune from it. Lots of different reasons why. Certainly, sickness, COVID, people getting tired of COVID, many different realities struck us, as they have other divisions in Manitoba. And the first few weeks of September were okay, and then it just got considerably worse throughout the month of September, and we ran into a shortage where we just did not have enough drivers to drive the buses. So our actions that we took, unfortunately, we did have to temporarily cancel Route 131 to Selkirk. We canceled a route in Whitemouth and combined 7 routes into 3 routes in the Beausejour area. And we had to add a double run in Powerview. And those actions, allowed us to continue as we came along and launched a very in-depth hiring program. We worked with HR, thanks to Jason Lang, who came up with some great ideas and supported us as HR can only do. And we came up with a referral program for any Sunrise employees who recommend a successful hire. So we will pay out $300 for every successful hire that is recommended to us. To date, we've paid out 2. If you haven't seen the massive signs on Highway 44, you are missing out a lot. We've got a couple of very large yellow signs on the side of the highway, imploring people to apply for the best job in the world, being a bus driver. We, as a result of some of the cancellations, we were able to turn a negative story into a more positive one in a Clipper article, and that certainly, while you never like to see some of those stories, it certainly generated more interest and enabled us to get some applications in. And I'm happy to say that as of today, we've hired 6 new drivers and have 8 more in various stages of hiring, and that is really no small feat. So thank you to our training team, thank you to our drivers who've been very patient. With a lack of spare drivers, being able to take days off is not possible, just because we don't have enough spare drivers to cover their route. So they've been very patient, and most importantly, thank you to the families who've been very patient with us as we work through this. I never like to say that we are done, because we are going to continue with our hiring process right through the year, and just keep adding spares as we can. The applications have slowed down a little bit, and probably will as we get into December and get into Christmas. Probably, typically those are slower times, but we'll make sure we are ready to go when the applications come in. And I have not been here since, I think the last time I was here was probably in late spring. So in May, June, we launched our first ever parental survey of transportation services. So this was something that's important to me. It gives us a very good opportunity to get some customer feedback, get some customer experience, get some data in front of us, so that we can build long-term plans. We can look at what we're doing well. We can celebrate what we're doing well, and we can build some processes to improve on any gaps that we may have. So we did send out a survey in June. We got a 12% participation rate from families who use our bus services, which is actually not a terrible survey response rate. So it certainly is, I never say this word right, statistically valid, right? 12% is a decent number. Most of the responses came from the Oakbank, Beausejour, and Dougald areas. We have some work to do to get some feedback from Powerview and Whitemouth and Lactabani. But when we do this again, we'll have to figure out how to incent those families to participate in this. So our overall, it was very positive feedback, and we certainly do have a full copy here that we can send out to anybody who wants to see all of the comments, right, which is significant. So we can make that available to anybody who wants to have some great reading. But overall, the feedback was very positive. An overall satisfaction of transportation services of over 90%. 68% positive feedback on the implementation of a parent app, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in the next slide, and 57% positive feedback on the importance of using alternative fuel for buses. So I think, what did I learn from this? I think we can, look at how we communicate with our parents, and part of that is that parent app. I think we can do a better job of that. I'm not saying we're doing a terrible job, but I think that's one thing we can do better. And just keep that constant feedback with the parents so that they feel engaged and part of the transportation process. And then on the final slide, just a couple updates on some various initiatives that we have going on. So the parent app, which I've talked about already. We have a couple major milestones to implement this. The first one that needed to be done was upgrade our in-bus hardware. So that is the little box that sits on the dash of the bus, and that connects to the bus and connects to the GPS signal. So those needed to be upgraded, and unfortunately there were supply chain issues. Our plan was to get them in July and install them in the buses while the buses were all in Beausejour during the summer. Unfortunately, we did not get those until September, when we had sent all the buses out. So just a little bit of challenge of getting those done as part of regular bus service, and going out and getting those done, and we should have those completed by the end of November. And then the next phase is I don't want to get too technical, but is the software upgrade that will allow that box on the dash to ping more frequently, so that we get a more accurate reading to the parent app. So that still has to be done, but fortunately that's just a software upgrade. And then the final step is the actual implementation of the app. We have to do some integration with our route finder, create some processes and parental communication. The cost to do that is about $18,000 in yearly costs. We don't have that in our budget, but it's something we can certainly look at and see if we can find that money somewhere this year. And from an alternative fuel perspective, we did have a meeting planned with the executive from Thomas Buses. They're going to come out and give a presentation to us on their electric roadmap per se, but their meeting with PTU went longer, and that's probably a good thing, because PTU really needs to steer this and ensure that we have buy-in from the provincial government. So they have promised to reschedule when the VP is back in town. Meredith, any questions?
Thanks, Jason. So, trustees, any trustees in the room here that have questions? Trustee Berry?
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Very informative presentations. As far as the alternative fuel goes, what does PTU stand for, and what does VP stand for?
Oh, sorry. What was the second one? PTU and?
VP. You said VP in the
a vice president. Vice president of Thomas Buses was in town, but PTU is the it's called the pupil transportation unit as part of the provincial government. So they are kind of our regulator per se. So they set the rules around which buses we can use, how they're optioned, the rules around how long rides can be. They really are from a transportation perspective, they are my governing body.
And is there school divisions that operate electric buses?
Not in Manitoba.
Not in Manitoba, no.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And is it something we could pursue in the future, or because, you know, as a rising cost fuel, that's something we should definitely pursue, I think, is electric buses.
It is certainly within the realm of the possible, and I don't know if you missed my last presentation that I did in spring, where I had a little more detail on the roadmap and some of the experiences of specifically BC and PEI on their process of implementing electric buses. And the common theme in that was it absolutely required the strong buy-in, support, and leading from the provincial government, right? Because the cost to do it is just absolutely prohibitive if we tried to do it ourselves without that assistance from the governmental bodies. I have not seen or talked to any other school divisions that are moving forward with this. We are all kind of waiting to see what PTU and the provincial government would have in the way of incentives and programs for us to go that way. But it is going to happen. Like there's no doubt, you know, within X amount of years, and I think that is going to be probably potentially around 5. I think you will really see a stronger uptake, not just buses, but other vehicles as well.
Thanks, Jason. Anyone else? Questions for Jason? Anybody online?
Hi, Paul. It's Trustee Rowland.
Go ahead.
I have 2 questions. The first one is I was wondering if you could let me know who is doing the bulk of the training of these new bus drivers? Whose responsibility is that?
We have a team of what is called driver trainers. So in order to be a trainer of bus drivers, you have to go through a very in-depth and intense training course by, again, the PTU put that on. So we have on staff, we have 3 driver trainers that are currently part of the bus driver team, and we have 1 secretary who was a driver trainer before she became a secretary. She's kept her certification up and is able to do training as well. So we have a team of 3 active driver trainers who do that training of prospective new hires.
Thanks. Matt, your other question?
I have one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, last time you were here in the spring, I recall your presentation on electric buses and I had asked a question about whether you had been able to contact Seven Oaks School Division and discuss their usage of compressed natural gas, or how they retrofitted buses and had been utilizing that alternate fuel in their division, and if you had any knowledge now of the success with that, and if that's something to be considered as well as electric or whatever alternate fuels may become available.
I did talk.
Have you found any more data on Seven Oaks School Division and alternate fuels, or other divisions?
Yes, I have talked to, and I don't want to get compressed natural gas and propane mixed up, but the bulk of the school divisions that are using other fuels, it is propane, which I think is a little bit different than compressed natural gas. I did not have a chance to connect with Seven Oaks on their compressed natural gas initiative, but I did talk to a couple other divisions who are using propane and found it to be very cost-effective and very efficient in use, and that is something we would be looking at for potentially our next purchase of buses to implement some of those.
Would it be fair to say that your ETU is discussing those forms of fuel or along with the electric, or are they just focusing on the electric?
PTO would be focused more on electric, as it is what I would consider a more of a cutting edge. Propane specifically has been used and is used by many school divisions across North America, including those in Manitoba. So it is certainly far more tried and true, way less cost to get into than electric. The motor that's in the bus is essentially a gas motor that is converted to run on propane, whereas the electric bus is completely and totally different than what we use today.
I guess I look forward to your report after your future meetings with PTU. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jason? So Jason, I have one. You talked about Zonar, and Zonar, I guess, is going to be eventually an app where parents can track buses on their phone. Is that correct?
Zonar is our GPS vendor. So the parent app utilizes that information from the Zonar system. The app that we would implement would be one from Route Finder, which is called I forget the exact name of the actual that the vendor calls it, but Zonar has an app as well, but it requires much more integration with our routing software. So we've looked at both of them, and the application that is delivered by our routing software vendor is much easier to implement.
So right now, we don't have the app, and it's going to cost us $18,000 a year to get the app. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so we're talking about getting the app. Okay, I guess I'm just trying to understand. So we don't have the app yet, and if we want to get the app, it's going to cost us $18,000. That's what I got.
That is correct. So what we have now is we use GPS today, right, to track our buses, and we utilize GPS to look at our bus for diagnostic purposes, and that is through a vendor called Zonar. Any parent app that you would implement requires your buses to have GPS in them and use that GPS signal.
So what you're really telling us, I think, is that it would be really great if we got an app so that parents can track the buses, and that app would cost us $18,000.
That's 100% true.
Okay, that's what I was wanting to get at. Thank you. Trustee Duma?
Well, and it's a yearly cost from what it states here. It's yearly, not just,
So it's just, everybody was getting their hopes up, or I was getting our hopes up, oh great, we got an app, but we don't quite have the app yet because we got to buy it first.
That is correct. And that is not it maybe sounds like a lot, but it's a subscription based on the number of buses that you have. So based upon the number of buses that we have, that is what it works out to be from a cost perspective. And all of the vendors go to a yearly or a subscription based model for delivery.
Thank you. Trustee Barry?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for clarifying that. I'm trying to wrap my head around the advantage of this app, because myself, I was a former school bus driver for Sunrise here years ago. So I'm trying to wrap my head around the advantage of this app.
Okay, I'll happily take you through. I wish I could draw some pictures, but I can't. So what the parent app does is it gives you real-time information on where the bus is that your students are on, and on the app that you have on your phone or on your computer, you set a boundary on a map. So if you live over here, you would set your boundary, maybe a kilometer away. You set that on your app, and then as soon as your bus for your students comes into that geographical boundary, you get a notification on your phone that says, hey, your bus is here, right? So really it does allow for parents to see see where their bus is in relation to their home, and know how long it's going to be for that bus to arrive at your home.
My next question, so are there still radios on the bus?
Like two-way radios for,
Station to the garage?
yes.
So there's still bus radios? I see an advantage to it myself, because you're still in contact with the garage via the radio, and you can still get contacted by the garage if there's a concern from a parent. Myself specifically, when I drove, there was a student I was supposed to pick him up from the Edward Schreier School, and he wasn't there. And so I waited, he wasn't there, and I left. And I got a call from the garage to come and pick him up. I went around, picked him up. And he was late for the pickup, and he appreciated me going back and getting him. So, in my mind, you're still in contact with the garage. And that's what you should be more concerned about. I still don't see the advantage of a parent watching where the bus driver's going every minute.
So we transport 4,000 students a day, and from a parent perspective, they don't have access to the radio on the bus. So this is kind of like if you order a pizza and you want to know where your pizza is, you can watch that delivery of the pizza on your phone. This is essentially, you watching so that you don't send your kids out. If the bus is delayed, you're not sending your kids out standing in the cold waiting for the bus that may be delayed. Or you can do it on a daily basis to see, okay, my phone dinged, that means we need to get outside to get the bus.
I've got Trustee Paczewski online here.
So first off, thank you very much for the presentation. I think it was very informative. I know myself as a trustee, and I'm sure I can speak for the parents in my area, probably and throughout the division, that we appreciate what you're doing with trying to find some efficiencies, improving our software to eventually, and I think undoubtedly, adapt some sort of route finder app to aid in parents and just to improve efficiency all around, really, I think. So I think just hearing the questions about the app to me as a trustee is a bit ridiculous, and I'm being honest with that, because I mean, I'm a parent with children in school, and realizing the times that we're in and the digital age that we're in, I think it'd be foolish to ignore the fact that we can find these things, and at that cost, as our transportation manager said, is really a very small cost for the benefits that we could see through such an app. I think it would be ridiculous for this board not to consider it, and actually not to move forward with that when that recommendation comes, or when we have to make that decision. But I think it's something that we should absolutely go forward with. I know there's parents, and I think the real valid benefit to this is when it's minus 40, or we'll say minus 38, and there's school, and some routes are late because the roads are a little bit off, or maybe the bus started a little bit late because they were having troubles with mechanical issues in the morning. It would be nice to know that your bus is running a bit behind, so you're not sending your students out there to freeze for an additional 5 to 10 minutes versus not. So there's a huge benefit to this, especially where we live, especially with the number of students that we bus every day. So I don't understand the questions that are being asked. I don't think they're even, it's frustrating to hear, to be honest, as a trustee, and I think it would be foolish for us not to look at something like this and see the benefit and see how this could be better for our students, better for our families, better for our division in many, many different ways. So thank you very much, Jason. I really appreciate what you're doing.
Thanks, Trustee Paczkowski. Anyone else? So again, Jason, thanks for reaching out to our parents and in their presentation about trying to get feedback from our parents about how things are going. We're always looking for feedback, and you've done that. Thank you for going ahead and doing that. Transportation isn't easy right now, of course, with the shortage, and you know what, I think that from everything that we're hearing from Kathy and Scott about how things are going, you're doing a great job, so thanks for that. Trustee Paczkowski is right. Everybody lives on their phones now, And if I had young kids and I can find out where my young kids are, certainly on the phone about where they are. If they're 5 minutes late, my wife would have been freaking. And so, do you know what, if we can track things, I shouldn't have said that out loud, that my wife would have been freaking, I'm going to pay for that. But of course, do you know what, those are kind of things that that we look at. But thanks very much for certainly for the information for us and giving it to us. Keep us informed certainly about how our bus shortages, drivers are going. You know, you've got a recruitment process going through. Thanks for that. And yeah, keep us updated as to how things are going, but thanks for the work that you're doing.
Sorry, Chair, do I have the floor? Yeah. No, I was looking on the Zonar Systems website. Is that where you would look for information? And I just noticed that there was information about the Parent app on that site. Just talks a little bit about it. So just is that where you would go to get your information?
No, like I said, and you can get some information from there. We would not be implementing the Zonar Parent app. We'd be implementing the Parent app from TransFinder, just for the simple reason that if you implement the Zonar Parent app, you have to import all of the information from our routing software, whereas our routing software company also has an app. But they both work very similar. Like so you know, if and any of the vendors that you would look at, they all basically do what I said, where you enter your address, you create a geographical boundary around it, and then when the bus comes into that area, you get a notification.
And just that parents would not be paying for this app if they loaded it on their phone. Okay.
Thanks very much, Jason. Trustee Barry?
I understand what you're saying, Jason. I'd just like to go on the record just saying all the years that I drove bus, I had a schedule, I had times, and I picked up every child that was on that schedule. No one was late, and I had no issues from any parent whatsoever. So, just let me know.
Thanks, Trustee Barry. Thanks, Jason. We appreciate the time coming and presenting in front of us. Much appreciated.
Thank you so much. I do appreciate the time, and look forward to my next visit in, let's say probably springtime.
And we know you're coming up into a real busy season, certainly with winter and how things are going, so yeah. Thanks. We're going to move on for our minutes. We have the minutes of November the 2nd. Be it resolved that the board adopt our November 2nd board meeting minutes. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Harris, seconded by Trustee Reed. Comments on the minutes? Hearing none, we'll vote. And they passed 8-1. Thank you. Superintendent's report. Kathy, you're on the floor.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen here so that I can go through a number of things, and just want to kind of probably talk a decent chunk about our COVID cases and where we're at with that, and just some information that I can share with folks. So again, the first bullet of my report talks about from the beginning of the school year up until Friday, October 29th, we were sitting happily at 4 cases. And then between October 31st, so we had a bit of a hiatus there from the 1st, 2nd of October to October 31st to November 12th, we had an additional 27 positive cases in 4 schools. So Enola School, Dugald, Springfield, and Oakbank Elementary combined had an additional 27 cases. There's a dashboard on the Manitoba Province website that we have flagged in our letters, and anybody can go onto that provincial dashboard and see the counts of cases in schools everywhere, everywhere across the province. The chair is just asking to explain. The dashboard is a website link, and if you click on that link, it gives you a map of Manitoba, and you can click on any school division, and you can zoom in, and you can click on every school in Manitoba, and you can look at the number of cases in every school in Manitoba. It is important to note that the map will log cases of students who were in attendance at school, but also cases of students who were not in school. So the next part of my second bullet says The school division was also informed about 12 cases in students who did not attend school while symptomatic or in their period of communicability. Those will still be on the dashboard. They will show up in our school division numbers. It has nothing to do with whether a student attended school or whether they were just attached as a student to a school. So the numbers on the dashboard are accurate in terms of any student registered in the province of Manitoba at a school will show up on that dashboard as a positive case. A couple of things that are really, really important to note. It says here that the cases were predominantly linked to community or private gatherings. So what happens when we get a positive case from either a parent calling to let us know that someone has tested positive, or public health calling to let us know that someone has tested positive, is sometimes public health has contacts and they will ask us to share some information about this list of students that someone might have been in contact with outside of the school, at a sports practice, at a birthday party, at a Halloween party, at a backyard gathering. They will give us a list of students and ask for some information. We also layer on information. Our principals do a stellar job of saying, here is any student in the school environment, from bus pickup to bus drop-off, who would have been in a 2-meter circle of someone, a 2-meter circle of a positive case, unmasked for longer than 10 minutes throughout the school day. And we give public health all of those names and that contact information, and public health then does all of the contact tracing. They also have a database where they link households and students and parents and children and schools and can trace back to case 0 based on what they've done in their database. So we rely on public health to do that for us, and then they get back to us and they let us know, here's who might be close contacts, they need to get a follow-up letter. We send out letters from the health authority. So sometimes parents will get a letter or will see the letters on our website. Those are not Sunrise School Division letters. The school division sends them out on behalf of the health authority to alert the public about a case that might have been in a school. So I know that it's not fun to hear my voice on the phone message. I'm waiting to walk into a grocery store and have someone say, oh my goodness, that's you who keeps calling my house. It's not fun. It's not very personable, and it's not very pleasant, and it's kind of robotic, quite honestly, to give you those factual pieces of information. But I do that to share the information from the health authority. We've also had some very strong communication with the health authority. I have a document that I want to throw up on the screen a little bit later, because over the course of this past week and a bit, I have worked with 25 different public health nurses. There are 23 on the list, and I have 2 more from this weekend. So we have 25 different public health nurses who've been doing the contact tracing. I need to say out loud that they've been doing a stellar job and that there is no backlog in terms of the work that they're doing. On Saturday afternoon, I was notified of a case. We did some tracing in the evening, thanks to the principals and myself and transportation and ICT. By Sunday evening, those public health nurses had finished all of their phone calls and done all of the work in terms of contact tracing. So I feel fairly confident in the work that they're doing. There have also been some questions from the public, and Paul alluded to a parent who sent an email earlier in the week, and I think we have another one here around when is the school division going into remote? When are we as a school division going to declare it an outbreak and go into remote learning? And we as a school division don't declare an outbreak. So I can look at those 27 cases, and I've shared the data and the information with both Manitoba Education and Manitoba Health. They all have all of that information, and it is up to Manitoba Education and Manitoba Health to declare an outbreak in a school. And they look at a number of criteria, including transmission at school. There may be 1 or 2 cases of transmission at a school, but there is no way that those 38 cases have been transmitted at school. They have come into the school for the large part from private and public gatherings. So that's the information that public health has shared with us. We are absolutely transparent and honest with them about all of the cases that we know. I want to look at the 3rd bullet, and I want to point out to you that on November 3rd, we had a positive case at Springfield Collegiate, and on November 8th, there was 1 positive case at a Call Edward Schreier school. It's important to separate those out because those are the older children. Of all of those cases that are listed there, There are only 4 cases in students older than grade 6. The rest of them are all underneath grade 6 and lower, which is again part of that vaccination conversation. So I'm going to roll into the next bullet and talk about the 5 to 11-year-old vaccination, but I wanted to spend a decent chunk of time about the number of cases that have happened, because I understand there are a great many people who are tired of getting a phone message that says, "This is Kathy Timko, Superintendent of the Sunrise School Division. On blah, 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 there was a positive." I have to do those messages, and it's critically important that you know about that. And I'd rather give you 10 of those messages than not give you the information about what's going on in our schools. Our COVID vaccination approval process for 5 to 11-year-olds. I was at a meeting today at 12:30 where that is going to be very likely out and about by the end of November. Public health nurses will be out in many, many, many places. And there was some concern that sort of come out in terms of questions around where are these vaccinations happening, and can a parent come with a student, can a parent not come with a student, and what does that all look like? So the different places that a student who is 5 to 11 years old can get their vaccination could be in the physician's office, the pediatrician's office, at a pharmacist, at any of the facilities that have immunization partnerships, at public health clinics. And the place that interests me and the school board is in-school clinics and after-school clinics. In-school clinics during the school day, again, would have to have a consent form. A parent would give consent for their child to go to school that day, to get their vaccination all by themselves, and that parent would decide that for their child. They might not fill out a consent form to have that happen at school. They may choose to take their child to their doctor or to the pharmacist or to somewhere else for that vaccination where they could be present. At the after-school clinics, parents and community members can come to the after-school clinic. So there are options for parents about how might you explore or look at or make a decision that makes sense for your child. I think that parents know their children best and know whether or not someone's okay with an immunization on their own or if they need to have a parent with them. But there is no way that consent forms are coming in and that public health nurses come into the school and just vaccinate whoever has done that. Those are parental decisions, and those happen in all of those different places. I'm going to keep on rolling because there's 2 other really important pieces that I want to talk to. The parent-teacher conferences this fall are a combination of in-person and virtual. We've had one parent-teacher at Edward Schreier School. We have another at Springfield Collegiate this week. But the bulk of our parent-teacher conferences happen in the evening of December 2nd and the day of December 3rd. There has been some questions, some concerns, some apprehension, and some anxiety around why are we not asking for proof of vaccination at our parent-teacher conferences? And I will out loud say that we are absolutely making sure we have a safe environment for anybody that comes into our schools. Right now, during the day, our schools are probably one of the safest places in this province for people because we follow all of those health protocols. On a parent-teacher interview, what you might expect is to be met at the door, to be asked a series of screening questions, to be spritzed in your hands like your kids are every day, to have someone watch you rub them together, and then have someone show you which way you are going to walk down the hallway, to keep your 2 meters, to have your mask on, and to respect the 2-meter distance all the time you're in the school. It is a very safe and controlled place where parents can hopefully begin to learn how to come back into schools and learn what it looks like to be in schools where we follow all those public health protocols. Some people have asked the questions about how come we're not asking for proof of vaccination. And part of the rationale is because we don't ask for vaccination when we go to the grocery store, or we go to fill up our car with gas, or we go to the dentist, or for a haircut, or for a medical appointment. Some of those essential or necessary services are things that people should have access to. And I would count having access to your child's teacher as one of those things. And we can absolutely make sure that that's done in a safe way. Last week we also had some information come out, laid out the gate in terms of travel restrictions. So the Manitoba website had provincial information, and we shared some provincial information with everybody, and then we had some federal information come out, so we had to make some changes to that information. So it's very, very clear that if anybody leaves the province of Manitoba, if I should leave the borders of Manitoba and I'm fully vaccinated, I can come back into Manitoba and I don't have to isolate. So one thing that exempts me from isolation is full vaccination. If I am under 12, I'm not eligible for vaccination. If I travel in Canada and everybody I traveled with is vaccinated, I don't have to isolate. If I travel outside of Canada and I'm under 12, I have to isolate for 14 days, and it makes no difference who I've traveled with or who's vaccinated or not. Children under 12 who come back into Canada from an international destination cannot attend schools or day camps or sports activities until that 14 days of isolation has passed. So we wanted to make sure that we had that. The letter has got some blue highlighting on it, and that's kind of the difference between the isolation stuff. There is one that is not included on here, and that is, I want to say, a Friday announcement around a new public health order that comes into play on December 6th. And I know I'm talking a lot, and I apologize, but there's a lot of new stuff. As of December 6th, any recreational sports or extracurricular sports for 12-year-olds and older, those students who participate in rec sports or extracurricular sports either have to have proof of vaccination or a negative test result to be able to continue to participate in rec sport activities. There's lots of questions around that. Where does the testing happen? How often does the testing happen? Who's doing the testing? I do know that the testing is slated to happen at pharmacies. It's not something the school division will do. It will happen through local pharmacies, and it is at the cost of families. I don't know the details of how that is going to roll out just yet, because we're still working with the province and all of the powers that be around what are the parameters. But as soon as we have landed on what those parameters will be, we will make sure that we share that out with families. But in a sort of a heads up style, that is effective December 6th. It's coming. A student can have their first dose of vaccination, and that will allow them to play or to participate in sports. I think that I've answered most of the questions that have come in through email. I guess I want to just wrap up by saying that if there is someone who's uncertain about something, by all means pick up the phone and give me a call. By all means send an email. I believe that I've been pretty decent at getting back to people, and have had some shocked folks who've said, oh my goodness, why are you still calling me at 8 o'clock at night? So please do pick up the phone. It's much better to get the information correct and straight, and I would certainly have that phone call. So unless there's questions, I think I've talked enough.
Thanks, Kathy. And again, I think those telephone calls are appreciated because people want to be informed, and so thanks for going ahead and doing that. Kath, today you said that you were on a call at 12:30. I was on a call with all board chairs across the province today at 2 o'clock. And the same information about the vaccine clinics in the schools that you read out certainly came to all the board chairs today. And I reported that to our trustees a little bit earlier today. So that same information is certainly that you got it with superintendents is the exact same information that came out to school board chairs. So thanks for that. Are there any questions on here about from in the room here for Kathy about her report? Trustee Harris.
For parents who are concerned that their child may come into contact with another close contact, either at school or outside the school, and would like to keep their child at home, do they have options at this time to continue to receive instructional support from the school?
Thank you. That's a great question. I didn't answer it during the presentation, so I appreciate that. No, there isn't that option right now for remote learning for families that are choosing to keep their child at home. Some of our schools, so the ones that are listed, so if I say thank you to Chris and Tony and Bob and Orest and Heather, some of our schools have said, hey, we've got a number of kids in this class who are isolating right now, so we have packages that are going home. We'll do that until those people are done isolating. That's a possibility. But again, I will say out loud that right now our schools are one of the safest places that people can be in terms of following the protocols. The Manitoba Remote Learning Support Center is an option for folks who may be concerned because they're immunocompromised or medically compromised. So if that is the case and that's causing some fear or some panic, please get in touch and we'll make sure that we explore that with someone.
Thanks, Kath. Any other questions here in the room for Kathy? Anybody online?
Yes.
Go ahead, Trustee Nicol.
Isn't it true, Cassie, that in most cases when a student is absent from school for 1 or 2 days, that the teacher would make contact with the parents and send work home for them?
Yeah, and doesn't that sound normal? So if I'm at home because I've gotten a tooth pulled and I'm having a tough time coming to school because my head hurts, yes, the teacher would be in touch and would be sending some work home for a short period of time. What teachers aren't doing is they are not packaging up 6 to 8 weeks of work and having someone stay at home for a lengthy period of time. Great question, Don.
Thanks, Trustee Nicol. Anyone else? Kat, you wanted to add something?
I just put up on the screen here, so there's a list of all of the public health nurses. I do want to add Diane Moore and Lisa Lehman to the list. So that's all of the public health nurses that we have had contact with, who call me on a regular basis, who email me, and who have been doing the hard work of contact tracing in our division. Also, the school administrators in those 4 schools that I mentioned, they have been on the clock, morning, noon, night, whenever. I answer the phone for one of them as hi, my new BFF. And again, a shout out to Gord and Jason. So Gord, at any hour of the day, queues up the messages that goes out, and Jason does the contact tracing for each and every bus route. So I do want to point that out publicly, that we have a ton of really great people working in the division and in public health to make sure that we're staying safe.
Thanks, Kath. Hearing no questions, we're going to move on. Thanks for the presentation. You have 6.2, Kath, draft reporting schedule.
Again, just a document for you as a board to let you know that we said we wanted to get these pieces of information, so to track for you that where are we at and what information are we bringing.
Perfect, Kath. Thank you. We're going to move on to Secretary Treasurer's report. Scott?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Something a little bit different now that we're about 1/3 of the way through our fiscal year. As of the end of October, I thought I would bring to the board a bit of an update on some of our operating departments and where we stand against budget. I do want to apologize. Last week, between Remembrance Day, obviously, and then a snow day on Friday, I did a lot of the work for the board materials from home, and I did intend to send out full financials for these operating departments. What you'll see on these slides is really just a snippet of the bottom portion that kind of has the bottom line. But I have now sent to all trustees via email the full financials for these operating departments, so you can look at them in a little more detail and let me know if you have any questions. So, being a third of the way through the year, we'll talk quickly about each department and where they stand versus their budget. I think it's important, we go through these types of reports, certainly in a lot more detail at our Finance Committee meetings once a month, but I thought I would bring the full board up to speed. Scrolling one more, Stace. Oh, to you, Kathy. Thank you. So our maintenance department, important to remember, we're really, as of the end of October, 2 months through the school year, so you would expect that we would be spent 20% of our budgets, but it's important to remember that most of these operating departments, in fact, all of these operating departments, maintenance, IT, transportation, and administration, are 12-month departments and are doing a lot of work over the summertime, particularly when there aren't students in schools. Maintenance is a great example. A lot of cleaning, a lot of smaller projects, and a lot of bigger projects as well when there isn't students in the school. So really for these operating departments, we are about 1/3 or about 33% of the way through the year. So I would expect these departments to be between 30 and 40% spent on the year. As you can see here with maintenance, Derek's budget is 22.5% spent. I don't have a lot of concerns about maintenance, and we watch maintenance on a regular basis. They tend to hold off on bigger projects towards the end of the year. saving up their money in case something happens. Obviously, maintenance can incur significant expenses if we have something major happen. So Derek does tend to sort of hold off on any expenditures in relation to capital of the year project related expenses until the end of the year when he knows how much budget he has left. So they're about 22.5% of spent of their budget this year. No concerns for me on maintenance. IT is a little bit different. You'll see Gord's budget year to date, and again, if you want to look at these in a little more detail, and they're a little bit hard to see a little small on the screen, Gord has spent about 99% of his budget. You may look at that and gasp a little bit. That's generally to be expected. ICT's expenditures are, for the most part, things that are incurred at the start of the year for the majority of the year. Good examples are some of the lease payments that Gord makes on all the equipment refreshes. We pay for those for the whole year at the start of the year, so that's expended at the start of the year. Things like our internet and software costs are paid up at the start of the year for the entire year. We're going to keep a close eye on ICT. They don't have a lot of budget left, but again, that's to be expected. But we'll watch and make sure that they can meet their budget goals by the end of the year. Transportation, similar to maintenance, about 24.7%, about a quarter spent through the year. Paul mentioned, there's concerns amongst a lot of school divisions right now. We all know the price of fuel seems to be rising on a daily basis, so we're keeping a close eye on that. Another thing that's been a bit of a concern when I talk to other secretary treasurers and other divisions is the rising cost of insurance. Insurance has been increasing dramatically as well. So we're keeping an eye on those things, but at this point in time, 24% spent of their budget, again, a third of the way through the year. Not a major concern, but we do want to watch as some of those prices increase. And then finally, our administration. And again, you'll see snippets of this. My intention was to sort of copy off the bottom piece that shows you the grand total and the bottom line. I didn't want to leave out detail, but I didn't want to produce a 20-page report, so I have sent you detailed financials via email. Again, 42% spent on their budget. That is on track. Again, I said 30 to 40% spent on budgets for all these departments. Similar to ICT, there are some things such as insurance, our insurance through MSBA, our software costs for administration and Power School and things like that are paid up front at the start of the year. So this is generally where we stand. If you look at each of these as well, you'll see in the far right column where we compare to last year. So we're 42.2% spent this year. Last year we're in the same scenario, about 44% spent. So just every once in a while, I think I want to bring an update to the greater board. We do, again, talk about these in greater detail at the Finance Committee meeting, but I think it's important to keep the board informed as to where we stand. That's the report for this meeting. I'll take any questions.
Any questions for Scott? Anybody online? Okay, thanks, Scott. We're going to keep moving forward. Scott, you've got 8.1 COVID cost update.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Nothing earth-shattering here as you've seen the last several months. I'll keep bringing in this information, but our costs continue to trend substantially below what we experienced in the sort of the height of this pandemic in the last year. We do have a proposal into the province with some funding that we received this year, more geared towards some recovery learning and mental health support. So we haven't received an official response approving that proposal. I've asked the province to confirm receipt of our proposal and tell us when we're good to go ahead and spend, but you'll see there's a $908,000 fund as well as a $123,000 fund that we haven't started expending against that proposal yet, so I'll let the board know when we do that for sure.
Thanks, Scott. Any questions around COVID costs from trustees? Trustee Duma?
Just a question about the staffing. Is that overtime for staffing or extra bodies, that cost that we have listed?
Not necessarily overtime, but extra time for sure. We have some staff that would be, say, part-time employees where we'd ask them to stay an extra hour, or, in the case of some of our bus drivers, there was cleaning requirements before and after their runs that would take extra time. So overtime in terms of more than their normal shift, but we wouldn't pay time and a half, sure.
So I think the question, Scott, then this is primarily with support staff?
Yeah, 100%. Most of the staffing and extra cleaning duties you'll see are coming from one of two places. It's maintenance and custodial staff, and it's bus drivers, for sure.
Thank you. Any other questions for Scott? Thanks. We'll move on. 8.2, a decision-making matrix. A reminder for trustees that we're continuing to work on the matrix, and we've been doing that. And to the public, we've had learning sessions on it, and we're not too far away from it. So just to keep a reminder, it's a standing item on here. 8.3 is our grade 12 provincial assessments. Kath, a little bit of an update you provided for us. Anything else?
Just really quickly to go to the bottom piece, normally this would be a really robust report on English and Français and mathematics courses in grade 12, but we haven't done the assessment since January 2020. They're not taking place this school year, and the province has made a commitment to shift those assessments to grade 10. So a new grade 10 assessment will be developed, and the grade 12 provincial exams will not proceed. So I think in our report we're going to change that to grade 10 and then see what that looks like. So just the highlight there.
Go ahead, Trustee Duma.
Just in regarding to the assessments not taking place, do you think that's impacted our students at all, or what do you think about that?
One of the difficult things about the grade 12 assessment, and I would agree that shifting it down to grade 10 makes a bit more sense, is because as a grade 12 teacher, I taught a lot of grade 12 math courses. I don't get the results from my grade 12 math course until I'm halfway through the next year with the grade 11s from the last exam. So in terms of informing practice and informing the teaching that we're doing and being able to impact the students that are here, the results we would get from the grade 12 assessments don't come till the kids are well on their way. So I like the shift to grade 10.
Anyone else?
Excuse me, Paul. That grade 10 assessment, when would that be implemented?
That is a super excellent question. I have no idea which subjects or when it will be implemented, and I find out and let you know the minute I do.
That was a super excellent question, Trustee Rowland. So thank you for that. Again, kidding aside, it is something that the province hasn't come out yet. However, the province then has turned around and said no more grade 12, moving to grade 10, but not being specific about what it's going on. And it's a new process, and it's a new test, and it's a new bringing everyone together and assessment. So it's go ahead, Kath.
There are some happy grade 10 students because they know already they've done the figuring that they aren't going to get tested this year in grade 10, and they're not going to get tested anymore for provincials. So I feel like we've done a little prep there.
Anyone else for Kath?
My goodness, actually, for that particular grade, they missed out on grade 8 provincial testing, and they actually haven't been subject to a lot of testing, and it seems that they're going to graduate grade 12 without having significant testing. So I'm not sure if that's, a benefit to them, or it's going to be a hindrance to their future testing that they may go on with post-secondary studies if they've never really experienced the stressors of a larger exam like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. So all of our students still have exposure to exam writing and to final assessments. It's just not the provincial assessment. So we have exams at each of those grade levels in grade 9, 10, 11, and 12. They will have that experience. The grade 7 and 8 assessments are not test writing assessments. They are observations by teachers. So that's teacher observation that happens in grade 7 and grade 8, but absolutely our 9 to 12s would have exam experience.
I think I was referring to the grade 8 math one that I think is done at that time, or was. The math one?
Yeah, it's still observation. So it is a teacher observation of where a student is at in January. It's not a test.
You bring up a good point, Trustee Rowland. That you talked about the grade 10s. Well, you know what? There's a number of kids, even our grade 3s. You know what? They didn't have a full year last year. They didn't have a full year the year before. So kids in grade 3 right now, this is the first year that they're really having a full year of school. So anyways, that's Kathy, you're well aware of that. But for trustees, you think about it, that's so the effects that you certainly see with our provincial testing, and the kids in grade 10, but think about sort of what COVID has done for all of our kids, in many different areas. Anyways, we don't have to continue on this, but Great comment.
Can I speak?
Go ahead, Trustee Nichol.
Yeah, I think when we talk about assessment, there's different kinds of assessment. There's formative and summative. Kids are being assessed nearly every week or sometimes nearly every day. The teachers are doing assessing all the time. They don't wait until the end of June to decide what the student is doing. A good teacher, and I think that's what we have in Sunrise, is they testing every day, or they assessing every day and modifying their teaching strategy to make sure those kids are successful. You don't need to, when I was teaching, I didn't need to even give the exam at the end of June. I know exactly what the students were going to get in their final exam because I was testing every week. I had a very good idea what the kids were doing, and I changed my strategy so that those kids would be helped. I think that's what all the teachers are doing. So I don't think that the kids are suffering just because they didn't get an exam at the end of June. They still learned all the material, and in most cases you could ask the teachers, and they would have known what the teachers, what the students had learned and what they needed work on the following year.
Thanks for your comments, Trustee Nichol.
Just one more comment from Trustee Rowan here. I don't disagree at all. I know that the teachers are doing assessments, and it's an ongoing thing with every student all year. But from a student perspective, there's a buildup of stressors and whatnot that they mentally prepare for what they perceive as a significant test, being a provincial test. And in my experience with my children, lots of students, have to deal and learn how to deal with stress in just relation to having that test, and they're not going to have that, and they haven't had that now. They haven't had that buildup or that perception of the difficulty or importance of that one test, and it's not at all a reflection of whether they are learning their stuff. It's just a student's challenge of undertaking that moment in time and how that helps them in the future. But we'll be fine. Thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Rowan. We're going to move on to 8.4 school carryover update. Scott, you provided a good update here. Anything else to add?
Yeah, just the only thing I'd add, Paul, I intended to be a little more robust than this, so I'll probably bring back some more information. I was actually working on this Friday, and I wanted to have some nice pictures of the shade structure at SCI and some of the other things going on. And then we had a snow day, and everybody was stuck at home, and I did speak to the principals and got an update. But I'll come back to either next meeting or the meeting after with a little more information on some of these projects.
So it's good. I think what we're asking for is, as they've carried this over, what they're doing with them, you've got to the issue. Thanks for doing that. 8.4 ward boundaries preliminary report, and Trustee Nichol is going to provide us with a preliminary report. So Dawn, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, I was supposed to make this report, and what I've done is I've got some information from the SEO, which was only effective until 2018. If you look at the wood boundary table, I don't know whether anybody can bring it up so that people can see that. And what it shows you that you have what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be making a quotient, which you divide the number of ratepayers by the number of trustees. By the way, when you have 4A, 4B, because we have two trustees, so I divide them into two, so we still would have the 9. So I indicated who was above the quotient, who was below the quotient. But there's also a range. The Public School Act says you can have a range from 2,148 to 3,580 and still be compliant. All the wards are compliant except Ward 1, and that's the only ward that has that won't be compliant. And that's something we have to decide. But you can then look at. I'll go on to this. There's a Public School Act, but you can look if you want. And then I'm going to go to the next one. This is the report I'm making. I submitted 2 other documents, which was the Public School Act, so you can see what we have to do. There's one method. I thought of what way could we do it to get Ward 1 to be compliant. One method would be to put all the taxpayers in St. Rita polling station and I.M. Reynolds into Ward 1. And all voters in Polson polling station from Reynolds into Ward 1, and this will allow most of Reynolds municipality to be in one ward. There'll be no other change in any of the other, there'll be no change in the polling stations because all these people are going already to St. Rita to vote for the municipality of Whitemouth, and at the same time then they vote for the I think it's Ward 4, or no, not 4, 2, I think. They vote for Ward 2, the NOLA Ward anyway. So you wouldn't change the polling station. With that all said, my recommendation is that we do not change any of the ward boundaries until the election of 2026. And the reason for that, the board will have more time to examine all the boundaries, make one change for the whole division at one time instead of doing the Ward 1, and then we might have to do something else. The information from 2018, and if we wait until after 2022, we'll have more up-to-date information. Our SEO is compiling up-to-date voters list using the latest census when it becomes available, and that will become available early in 2022. We should have public information meetings, and with COVID, it's more challenging to have an in-person meeting and meet all public orders. After the board has made the decision, they would have more time to inform the voters where they'd be voting and what were they voting for. So if we start changing now and don't make a decision until June, we don't have that much time to inform the voters. The cons for that is for the 2022 election, one voter will not be in compliance with the Manitoba School Act. Are there any questions?
Well, thanks, Don, for putting this together. We asked you to go ahead and do it, and it's again, you've been thorough in it. I appreciate that. I will go around and ask anybody if there are some questions. Anybody in the room here have questions for Don about the report? Is there anybody online that has questions for Don?
Pachkowski.
Go ahead, Trustee Pachkowski.
Great work, Don. I think you did a fantastic job with the report. I just wonder, it's not really in the report, but I wonder if the board would consider not changing any of the boundaries, but merging Broken Head and Beausejour just to have two representatives versus broken up into two different areas. Just a thought. And that's something maybe we can look at for the next election in 2022. Just a thought, that's all. Just throwing it out there.
Thanks, Trustee Pachkowski. Any other questions? Well, Don, thanks for certainly with the report. You've made some recommendations here. I think that that as we come forward, if as we move forward with this, if a trustee wants to go ahead and make, so we want to have further discussion on this, or someone wants to make a motion on this, we could. One of the things that we don't have, so right now you've talked about recommendation is not to change any of the ward boundaries. I guess one of the things is that if we were ever considering about changing the ward boundaries, we want to find out about what a cost of this would be for us to go ahead and do this. As of right now, we haven't given direction yet to our Secretary Treasurer to go ahead and do this. So it is something that you've laid out here, and if it's something that we want to go ahead and do, that would probably be a next step for us to go ahead and take a look at. Anyways, thanks for the information, Don. Appreciate it. And again, if we want to move forward with this, we'll have some further discussion. Oh, Trustee Reed, sorry.
I didn't quite get all of what Jared said. I'm just wondering which he wants to join two together, and I'm not quite sure what he was asking for.
Trustee Pachkowski, would you like to go ahead with that again?
Sure. So right now there's one representative for the town of Beausejour, and there's one representative for Broken Head. A lot of the schools are intertwined and that sort of thing. And I was just wondering what the board's appetite would be to just basically have two representatives. So the population and boundaries wouldn't change. It's just two representatives representing the Beausejour/Broken Head area versus splitting it up into two different, like just two representatives representing the same ward versus having two separate areas. That's all.
Trustee
I don't
Patrick?
know if the trustee from Bossier wants to comment or not.
So right now it would be, if you go to Stacy, can you put up the ward boundaries that Dawn's got up here? So that it would for Russ's question and for Jared's point of view, this would be wards 5 and 6. Those are the two wards that you're talking about. So there you see the numbers there. So Trustee Pachikowski is saying instead of having a ward 5 and a ward 6, combine the 5 and 6 together and still have the two trustees for 5 and 6. And again, that's something that he's I think Russ, that's what he was talking about.
Okay, can you just tell me which, what is it, 4 and 5, or which two is he talking about?
5 and 6.
5 and 6. And he wants to unite them.
His suggestion is,
and then cut them in half?
So his suggestion is that combine wards 5 and 6, because it's Bossier Brokenhead, because they're together, so Town of Bossier and then Bossier Brokenhead. His suggestion is combining wards 5 and ward 6 and have two trustees out of wards 5 and 6, as opposed to having one out of ward 5 and one out of ward 6. So again, that's a suggestion. That's a suggestion right now.
Can I comment further on it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I guess I should have explained. Some of the rationale behind what I'm saying is because right now we are calling Ward 5 the Town of Bossier, but Ward 5 actually extends into some parts of the RM. So I just heard it makes it's not really a true representation the way that they're named right now. So I think not changing the boundaries of the two, but just combining it into one ward and having two representatives still, or two trustees represent that larger, well, not larger, but combined area, I think makes more sense. That's all.
Well, thanks for this. My suggestion is as trustees, we think about it as what the information that was there. If we want further information, or if there's a potential for us to go ahead and do something as what Trustee Pachikowski is talking about, then we'll come back to it with Trustee Pachikowski. We'll bring it. Or if we want more information about costs, we'll go ahead and ask for that information. Trustee Berry?
Yeah, thanks to Trustee Nickel for the report. It's very informative. I just want to be clear, is this within our authority to change wards, or do we have to get approval from the province to do some changes like this? I just want to be clear on that.
You want me to answer that?
Go ahead, Don.
Well, I gave you the Public School Act section 57, that tells us that we have the authority to change it, but like in many cases, after you make a decision, you got to go to the province to get their approval. So we have authority to change it, but we still got to get the approval at the very end. And the other thing, because we have to do one more step, is that's why I'm making a notice. I'll give you right now, making a notice of motion. We got a petition saying that to be looking at the ward boundaries, and according to the Public School Act, we have to get back to them and tell them what we're going to do. So I'll make a notice of motion. I'll make a motion what we're going to do, so we can get back to the people that signed the petition, so they know what action we are taking.
Thanks, Don. And a reminder, I think that we talked about this already. Since the petition did come in, it was a question of whether we may or may not act, and so we go ahead and certainly the issue is we do not have to act. It's a may clause that's in there. Anyways, so I think that what we did was we asked Trustee Nickel to give us a presentation, and there's been some other suggestions, so we will bring it back up for certainly people to think about it. And if there is something that somebody wants to come forward with a motion for something, certainly go ahead and do that. The only other thing that I would suggest is that if we are looking to hold an election, we better do some homework and find out about costs. So let's think about that first, and then before we go down that road. But thanks very much, Don.
Can I just add something you said? We may not, but if the people that signed the petition are not happy with our action, then they can go to the province, appeal, and the province can tell us. That's why I'm saying that we should be writing to if we don't write to the people that asked the petition, and if they're not satisfied, province will come back to us and ask them why we're not doing what the petition asks us to do.
Yeah, so I think that, Don, all along, we do need to respond back to the group that put the petition together. I think that this was the first step as to where we are. We'll have some other conversation the next time that we get together, and then we'll certainly answer them. Good point.
Thanks.
Okay, so we're going to move on to subdivision land planning letter. This is, I guess, you, Scott. This is out for information.
Yeah, just information. This is actually an older one from this summer. Just we did get information from the land planning department that it was actually rejected by the municipality. So just for information.
So Scott, we have set up a meeting with the arm of Springfield and the town of Oak Bank coming up on the 25th. And we've got some commitment from our local trustees about being there. We're looking forward to certainly you leading that meeting with our trustees. Thank you. 8.7 is a notice of motion, and I'm going to give the floor to Trustee Duma to talk a little bit about the presentation that she's asked about developing an ad hoc committee, I guess, to look at facilities. Trustee Duma?
You know, it's just proposal for the board to be thinking about possibly having an ad hoc facility committee. We haven't had one, as it's explained in my notes. I also made a suggestion as who could be on that committee, if they're interested, who knows. I give the rationale in there. I also would encourage trustees to look at what other school divisions do about facilities. I think it'd be worthwhile to do. I think it could be time limited. It wouldn't have to be ongoing, but maybe one day the board might want to do that. So the proposal is just there for you to look at, explore your own ideas about what you think the committee could do. I've got lots of ideas in my head, but I would like to see the board support this sort of motion when it comes forward. And other school divisions do have facility committees. They often have it ongoing as a regular committee of the board. This is not what I'm asking for. I'm just looking for something that could be in the interim created and have the committee look at the facilities, do a report to the board by April, May. That's pretty well it.
Thanks, Trustee Duma. Any questions for Trustee Duma from anyone? Round table? Trustee Berry, comments? Nothing? Trustee Reed, comment?
Again, I'm slow on the uptake. I'm not quite sure what the committee would be doing. They would be checking the facilities around the division and finding out if they need upgrading or repairing, or I'm not quite sure.
Trustee Duma?
I think what spurred me on was the discussion about even the ward boundaries. Like if you're looking at what your schools, your populations are, how big are they, how much room do they have, what's your growth in your areas, like all those sorts of questions that go into what your schools are doing, having a good look at them, hands-on by trustees. And you look at what I mean, facilities reviews are what spur changes in your by school populations around it. Whether you want to one day look at increasing a school in an area or putting proposals forward, what their busing routes are like. It's a lot of interesting stuff. And I mean, I can dig up some old reports that have been done encompassing what facilities, what they did, and what other committees do in the province. But basically, it's looking forward at what is your school, the size, the numbers. Is there going to be huge population changes in that area? Do you want to look at something that you're doing in that school in that area? Do you want to rejig things? It's just an assessment to come back to the board to say this is what Sunrise School Division looks like. And there's a lot of stuff we have already. Like we have information from the maintenance on how old the schools are, renovations that have been done, like those kinds of things. A lot of it is, you know, how big is it, how many students are in it. Over the years, we've lost two schools. We lost Pine Falls School, and we
I have a
lost
point of
the
order.
Reynolds School, so...
And I have a point of order.
Go ahead, Trustee Nichol.
Yeah, this is just to introduce a notice of motion, and a notice of motion, you're not supposed to talk about the motion, you're just supposed to say there's going to be a motion. I'm not quite sure why we're spending 10 minutes talking about a motion that we haven't even got on the floor. You introduce a notice of motion, and that's it.
So do you know what, Don, that was me that...
I would counter with a point of order that I was responding to a question by a fellow trustee, and there's nothing wrong with responding to the question.
So she was responding to a question, Don, and I did open the dialogue by asking trustees about thoughts certainly on it. I don't want to spend a ton of time on it as to where we are, but I did ask trustees around here as I was going to get to people. So I did ask Trustee Barry and I did ask Trustee Reed for his understanding of it. And again, I just wanted to get a feel for people, but yes, you're right, Don. It is something to come up, but I did want to get a feel from people as to where we are. So it was me, Don, that opened that can.
No, I wasn't going against Trustee Duma. I'm just saying that what was happening was Trustee. I know taking the blame of it, and I probably should have said it as soon as you had mentioned it, because a notice of motion, that's usually what you just do. You look at any other notice of motion, people just say this is a notice of motion, they give you the motion, and then that's it.
Yes, I understand, Don. I did want to get some dialogue from trustees quickly, and I should have said that just to get their understanding certainly of it. I'm going to continue with that, Don. So I'm going to go back to Trustee Harris, his thoughts.
Well, how can you do that when you notice a motion? A notice of motion, you haven't even thought about anything because there's no motion. The motion's not before us. So why are we discussing something that's not a motion? We usually don't discuss things unless there's a motion on the floor. And there's no motion on the floor because there's a notice of motion. I didn't even look at everything, all this stuff, because I want to look at the final motion. It says the final motion will have more detail or more clarity once we discuss. Well, I want to know what the final motion will be.
You know what, you're right on this, Trustee Nichol, is that I will not go ahead and ask people's opinions of what it is, because it is a notice of motion. I will be careful next time about how we put it onto our agenda. Thank you. Let's move on. We have committee reports. So we have Trustee Harris on our policy committee.
Policy committee met last Friday. The minutes and some ideas are attached to the agenda and on the ESB. Two highlights out of many. One is that we started looking at a new policy number 22 called Senior Administration Contract Negotiations, and we have our initial thoughts there for other trustees, and we would certainly welcome any feedback from other trustees on that. And secondly, we are bringing a notice of motion for our next meeting that there is a new policy number 20 called Seclusion that is required. It's a legislative mandate by the province, and the attached, there's an attachment of that policy in our agenda, and that motion will be coming at our next meeting. Thank you.
So Trustee Harris, you're looking for some feedback. Can you particularly talk about what kind of feedback that you're looking for?
Regarding a new policy 22, which the board had asked us through a motion back in October to look at how to develop a process for negotiating with the Assistant Superintendent, Secretary, Treasurer, and Superintendent. We've put some initial thoughts there. If other trustees have other ideas, we would welcome those ideas before our next policy meeting in December. Otherwise, we'll continue on with what we've got there.
So are you looking for feedback tonight, or are you looking for feedback through email?
Email feedback, please.
Looking through email feedback. Thanks, Trustee Harris. Any questions for Trustee Harris? Trustee Duma?
Just the seclusion policy, do we have a email or some sort of preamble on that from the province requiring that? We got a document, Safe and Caring Schools, done up by the province with a deadline of somewhere around the end of October to have policy and procedure in place. So I could share that document. In this particular one, we got together as an Interlake Eastern, all of the divisions to work on it. Can I ask that the chair have that distributed to the board?
So Jackie, can you provide us, so great idea, but certainly you've obviously got some documentation on it, so can you provide that to us for our next meeting with regard to what the province is asking for and then develop from there? That'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you. So we're now on to the 8.10 Finance Committee. Dawn, is there any updates from the Finance Committee? 8.9. Sorry, 8.9 Finance Committee update. Trustee Nicol?
Yeah, just a minute. It's not on the ESB yet, so I can't read what it says. I still got a Policy Committee minutes on my. We have to wait until Stacy.
So there's no meeting, right? So it looks like there was November 18th is the upcoming meeting. Is there anything before then?
Yeah, there's a meeting on November the 4th, too. We had a meeting on November the 4th. But I'm trying to get it on the ESB, because that's where I get all the information. I'm not quite sure why I can't see it.
So we don't have it here, down here, Don, so maybe what you can do is you can give us a verbal update, and the next time that we get together, we'll have both November 4th and November 18th kind of minutes from there. Is there anything that happened November the 4th that the trustee needs to know?
Yes, but I guess I probably should have talked about it when it's coming to the financial, the check register, so I'll wait until we get to the check register. Essentially what we did, we changed the form of the check register a little bit, so just to let you know, it has changed slightly. So I'll wait until we get the check register up and talk about it at that time.
So Don, can you bring forward the next time that we get together minutes from the November 4th and November 18th meetings that are coming up, so that and then talk to them next time we get together?
Yeah, because November 4th we haven't passed minutes, but that's why you didn't get it for the 16th.
Okay, thank you. So 8.10 is the check register, so be it resolved the board received the September 2021 check register with a total amount of checks issued at $2,359,598.19 reviewed on November the 4th by the Finance Committee for information as submitted. So Dawn, are you moving this?
Yes, I am.
We need a seconder. Seconded by Trustee Harris. Questions?
I just want to talk about it now. That's when I'll talk about. We changed the format a little bit. You notice that we said that accounts containing this register have been reviewed by the Finance Committee, and we indicated when we held the meeting. So at the meeting held on the 4th of November 2021, and we took out the need for the signatures because if we reviewed it and submitting it to the board for approval, that means all of us agreed to it, and there's no need for us to sign it, as we would not have given to the board to approve it unless the Finance Committee had completely agreed with the review of the check register. So there's a slight change in the way the form is issued from now on.
Okay, thanks, Don. Questions about the check register? Hearing none, we'll vote. So it passed 9-0. Thank you. The 8.11 is the Sunrise Education Foundation Committee update. Scott, is there anything that we were waiting on from legal that we would have got back to the Education Foundation?
Just waiting on one more piece for legal that we haven't got yet, so I'll follow up with Anita. We should start thinking about booking another meeting for that, but nothing today.
So can you book a meeting with Trustee Duma so that we can get underway? Let's get a meeting together. Trustee Duma, can you make sure that that meeting gets booked together? Thank you. Where are we? We have professional development. There's nothing except that we did say that, it's probably on there anyways, about our the AGM for MSBA for the school boards. Is it on here, Stacy? Did I miss it? You didn't put it on here? So we do have our MSBA, I sent it out today, the MSBA the fall general meeting is Saturday, November the 27th. Just a reminder certainly of that. Oh, it is on there. Thanks very much. Thanks, Art. Okay. So let's keep moving. Financial monitoring report. So it's an action item. Be it resolved that the board adopt a financial monitoring report for the months ended September 30th, reviewed by the Finance Committee on November the 4th. Don, are you moving this?
Yes, I am.
Seconded by Trustee Reed. Questions to the monitoring report? Hearing none, we'll vote. You lost? You're out? So the motion passed 7-2 for the financial monitoring report. Thank you. Board correspondence on there, nice to know items. You'll see certainly on there as well. Upcoming meetings, so thanks Art for pointing out that it is on there. MSBA fall general meeting. Press releases. Questions from the public. So you did provide me, Scott, that we had a question from the public. And the question from the public, I'm going to read it out here, read out part of it. I think that the answer already came in. It was when Superintendent Timko was doing her presentation. The question came in talking about the mental education and public health declared an outbreak when there are at least 3 school-associated cases within a 14-day span. However, the question continues that goes on, what are the case numbers in our Springfield schools, specifically Enola, Dugald, Oak Bank Elementary, Springfield Middle School, and Springfield Collegiate? And at what number does Sunrise declare an outbreak and or move to remote learning in order to mitigate transmission? I think, Kathy, you spoke to all this in your presentation, so I'm not going to go ahead and answer the question again. I think you were very clear in your presentation as to how to go ahead and answer that. So that is one question that we had. Did we get any other questions, Scott? Okay. I will share that question certainly with all trustees about it, but that was a question that came up tonight, and it came from, have we named out people? We do? So that came from Lorraine Boydson, that question, so thank you for the question. We do not have to move into in-camera, but we do have an item from in-camera. Is that correct? Right? Yep. So, we have a motion from in-camera. Be it resolved that the board accept a letter of resignation from the Secretary-Treasurer with the effective release date to be determined. I need a mover and a seconder. So the question came in here so that people didn't hear is that if no one moves or seconds, it doesn't really happen. So I need a move and a second. A move by Trustee Harris and is seconded by Trustee Nickel. Okay. I'm not sure that we need to discuss this. Any comments? Certainly, Scott, I'll speak on behalf of the board. Again, we're going to miss you, and you're not going tomorrow. But again, from all of us, yeah. Yeah, good luck. Thank you very much for the work that you've done. So, we need to go ahead and vote. So the motion passed 9-0. I think that all of us probably would have wanted to vote against it, but there we are. Yeah, so obviously, Kathy, with that, we have some work to do as we move forward. We'll go from there. I think this is an adjournment. I don't think there's anything.
Paul,
go ahead.
So there was some urgency with respect to, and no disrespect to our Secretary Treasurer. I'll just echo what Paul said in my next comments, but there was some urgency with respect to our Assistant Superintendent position and drafting up and getting that process going, and I feel the same sense of urgency with this one as well. So I don't know if our superintendent wants to bring something back, or the board wants that to happen, but that would be a suggestion from me that we start on moving on that process as well. And obviously no disrespect to Scott and the work that he's done and that sort of thing, but I think it's important for our board to make sure that there's progress in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. I will put together a bit of a timeline and a process for that one. Appreciate it.
Thanks. So we're at, I guess, 18.0. Trustee Duman reminds me that I can just go ahead and say we got nothing else to talk about. We're adjourned. So we're adjourned. Thanks to the people that are online. Thanks to the people that were here doing the work. Have a good one.
Diane Rowland.
Left.